Hello, everyone, and welcome to Conversations in Horror. My name is Kevin L. Powers, and I'll be your guest for this amazing adventure into the bowels of hell in terms of Valentine's Day horror. And this is something we're doing this different than normal because we're going to be celebrating this month, Valentine's Day, love, and all that type of stuff in horror. We're also doing Black History Month, so we'll be doing some films on that as well. So this is going to be an interesting month for our show, and I'm glad you're going to be joining us. Also joining us as my special guest is Sarah Panozzo. She's a regular on our show, and she loves to talk about all kinds of horrifying things with me. And I hope that you've been enjoying our conversations in the past. And welcome her for this show here. So Panozzo, tell everyone who may not have heard this before a little bit about yourself before we get started with this week's movie.
I'm Sarah. I love horror movies, and this one is an interesting set that we're doing, and it has some of the most horrific times of the year because, the holidays can be terrifying.
All right. So, everyone, we are doing the movie Holidays, which is an anthology film that kind of encompasses 8 different holidays, which should be very interesting. I mean, we've all seen multiple different types of anthology films, but this one here, each holiday is giving a short film that's done by a different director who has done several horror films and will be probably familiar to some of the hardcore horror fans out there. I mean, even Kevin Smith from the Clerks and Tusk has a short in this film, so it has a little bit of everything. But to get us started, because this is an anthology film, we've not done an anthology film yet. Kind of, Panozzo, tell me a little bit about your thoughts on anthology films in general, and before we get started with this film.
So I love anthology films. I love anthology books where you get that, like, I have a hard time focusing on reading an entire book at once. So the short stories have always been like my favorite type of thing, like gone through all the Stephen King collections, just the random horror short story collections, because you can get a little bit of everything and they can be all drastically different. It's why I like the shows like Black Mirror and Twilight Zone, is you basically get a tiny mini story that all revolves around the same topic occasionally. So like I love the VHS series. ABCs of Death was a great anthology series as well. But yeah, it's fun to go back and forth with them, whether they all have something together or not.
So I'm also a big fan of anthology films, and I do enjoy the anthology films that have themes in them sometimes. Other times I like the ones that have absolutely no theme other than allowing a director or a writer to go crazy with the concepts. That's one of the things I loved about the 3 and 3 Extremes films. But I also enjoyed the VHS. I'm a huge fan of the VHS.
They're so much fun. I'm glad they've brought them back the last couple of years.
Yes, I am too. I'm glad that Shudder has gone out the way and done those. And there's a lot of anthology films out there that we'll hopefully eventually get through, because everything from A Christmas Horror Story, and I think they did what was it?
All the Creatures Are Stirring, I think, was the Christmas one.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of them out there now, and Holidays is one of the few that I can think of that decided to do a short based on each one of the holidays. So we're gonna get started with that. This is gonna be a little different because there are so many different stories in this one. We may go through each of the different stories in terms of plot and trying to decipher our likes and dislikes between each of the stories, which is not what we currently do with any of the other films. So this one will be interesting for us. But that being said, we might as well get started with the first one, which was what's the first one? What's the first one?
Valentine's Day,
which is what this whole thing is about. Valentine's Day. So it's a great way to start off the episode. Valentine's Day. What were your thoughts on Valentine's Day?
I thought it was so interesting and funny, and a lot of these had like little bits of subtle humor in them. And this one just had phenomenal lighting. Like, it was very dramatic when they were under the water, and when she had the like zoom in romance scene where it got really cheesy, and I just thought it was super hysterical and precious. And then leading up to the the end where she is literally offering him a heart at the door. I mean, it's like, it's what you give on Valentine's Day is you give something that's a heart. You give them your Valentine. And I guess that's one way to do it.
So when I rewatched the film, I actually saw the Valentine's Day short segment as a different type of film altogether. When I rewatched it, I started to see a lot of parallels to the movie Brian De Palma's Carrie with the character.
Yes.
The main character, I can't remember her name offhand. Maxine.
Maxie.
I remember
Max.
that.
They keep calling her Maxi Pad. Yeah.
They keep calling her Maxi Pad. And one of the opening scenes is all these other girls who are picking on her. And when they did the whole thing with the Maxi Pad, I kept thinking of the opening scene to Carrie where they're saying, plug it up. And it's all these bullies against this one girl.
Fun fact, I wasn't paying attention to it, but I noticed it online today, is what's the hat things that they wear when they're swimming, the like hair protectors.
Yeah, the cap.
The cap. So apparently they are all set to be the same colors, where one is rainbow, like the girls were in Carrie in that same scene.
See, I saw that, and even when they're in the locker room scene, when all the other bullies are around the main bully, they all look like characters from
They
Carrie.
do.
And I didn't notice that the first time I saw it. I was like, now that I've seen it the second time, it was blatant then. And which makes that segment a little bit more enjoyable to watch, or some of the Carrie references to the Brian De Palma version versus the other versions that have been made since then, because it's been remade, I think, twice now, and a sequel. So
yeah, because I mean, like that zoom in of her face, when she's like the love struck teenager, where it's very manic. That's also very similar to that one shot in Carrie where she's like smiling with the crown on at the dance, and she looks so manic no matter what. So it's very interesting.
Well, you may bring up something else, the way it was lit. And there's a lot of red in this film.
Yes.
It goes with Valentine's. And then the swimsuit costumes. And of course, when they're running, when the main bully and Max are running through the woods, the main bully has the red bow in her head. The red plays red
is everywhere.
And it actually does in some of the other ones too. Color does too. But this time when I watched it, I was very, I noticed a lot of these details that I didn't the first time I watched it. And that's what made this film a little bit more enjoyable, is because some of the stories in and of themselves are not the best stories. But some of the concepts that the filmmaker used to bring the story across were actually very interesting.
Yeah, and speaking of similarities between the couple, I never realized until I started taking notes how many of these stories have like the missing father aspect, which don't know why, but cool.
It brings up something. I would kind of wonder if any of the filmmakers were all together in terms of trying to figure out the stories, and if there is any type of link between the stories. I know sometimes that does happen, but not always. I know with the Three Extreme movies, there is absolutely no link whatsoever to the filmmakers. They all had a complete control over whatever the heck they were making, and then they just threw these films together, mostly to show a filmmaker from different countries. So each segment is by a director from a different country, whereas this one, there are segments that are from the other countries, but I wonder if there was any type of cohesiveness between all the filmmakers who put it together.
Yeah, I could find very little about like the actual making of this, and I don't know if it was like they reached out to everybody and said, hey, this is your theme, this is what we're doing, or if they just happened to find people who were making holiday themed shorts and just requested them to send them in.
Well, the quality between all of them are completely different.
Yes.
We haven't gotten to my boy Kevin Smith's film yet, but his seems like he just did his on the weekend.
Yeah.
Whereas something like this one, you had to have a lot of cinematography and color and stuff.
Yeah, you had a lot of production quality compared to the Halloween one.
Any other thoughts on Valentine's before we move on to the next one?
The only other big thing that I got from this was that the two directors from this just did the newest Pet Cemetery, the one in 2019.
Oh, nice.
So it was interesting. I did a dive for each director, and all of these people were pretty unknown in 2016. They've done a couple of little things here and there, but then a lot of them only recently hit it big with like A-list, B-list movies.
Mm. I'm not surprised. Kevin Smith was the one I knew the most of when I originally saw it.
And I think that's why I originally watched it, is I knew Kevin Smith had a thing in there, and I definitely stayed for the other movies.
Yeah, well, I'm thinking I've still only seen, I think, 4 of the movies from the directors that they mentioned. Like on the poster, they mentioned the directors that are associated with film, and I've still only seen 4 of the movies there. I have to have some horror films to go out there and watch.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think I've seen a few of these. I think I've seen maybe one from each.
So, if for those who have never seen the poster for Holidays, they advertise it by the directors of Dracula Untold, Dark Skies, Tusk, Starry Eyes, The Midnight Swim, The Pact, and Some Kind of Hate. If you've never seen the poster, I actually really like the poster because the character on the poster is like a mixture of all the different holidays. I thought it was very clever. It's for me, it's the biggest selling point of it. I think when I heard about the movie, I just heard about an anthology film that's encompassing all these different holidays. It's like, okay, another anthology movie. But when I saw the poster, it's like, oh wow, this is kind of cool. Let me check this out. Some of these films I've heard of. I've actually heard of all of the films, but only some of them I'd seen. I think the only one I had not heard of before actually viewing the film was The Midnight Swim, which I still haven't seen yet, but I need to go out there and watch it, I guess.
Yeah, like I said, like there were some directors who before this hadn't done much, but then afterwards they've done quite a few things.
Yeah.
So I was pleasantly surprised with some of these.
Well, that's good because I know that in theory, a lot of anthology movies start off like that. I mean, what was it? ABC's of Death used tons of no name or relatively new directors to direct each one of those little segments.
Yes.
I think that's a great stepping stone for a lot of directors who are just trying to find their feet in the door in terms of getting real jobs.
Yeah, because like in the last 10 years with the influx of, I would say, more creative horror, or it's not just the jump scare movies over and over again. Like we get some pretty original ideas or some really good remakes like The Invisible Man, and you look back and they've all done one of these collections of films, whether it's a VHS or it's ABCs of Death or even this. So it's always interesting to look back and be like, oh, I really loved that one. And like the guy who did The Night House, I believe, did the Siren one in the first VHS.
Yeah.
And it's like
version, I believe, too.
Yeah. And I was like, that one was probably one of my favorites in that collection. No wonder I loved this movie. So it's interesting looking back on these people.
Well, it used to be that you had stars before they were stars as starring in a horror movie, and now you have all these horror directors who start off doing anthology films before they move on to something bigger and better. All right, let's move on to the next one, which is St. Patrick's Day.
This one was so much fun, and it was so pregnancy is a scary thing for women, and the whole giving birth to a snake thing was very I was worried it was gonna like alien chest burster out of her at one point, but I'm glad it did not go that way. And then it was really cute when it was born and it had Danny Zuko hair. So I mean, how can you not like that giant snake?
So I did see vibes of Rosemary's Baby in this one here.
I mean, they even mentioned that at some point. It's I wrote it down. What did they say? Have you ever seen Rosemary's Baby? Well, replace baby with reptile. Rosemary's Reptile.
And it's one of those things where when I saw the film the first time, I thought it was really creepy because the little girl is freaking creepy as hell. Uh, she's really creepy as hell, and the idea of them using the snakes and visually there's the snake pattern, and with the ropes and everything like that.
Yeah.
It was really cool. But you're right. By the time they get to the very end, it becomes this cute little movie with the
Yeah.
baby. In the forest, the forest with everyone dancing around with this giant snake. I hate to say that I hope that she went back together again after giving birth to a freaking 15 feet snake. But it's one of the more unusual endings to the stories in this anthology. Most of them have not so good of an ending.
Yeah, like this was a very happy ending where they were like, well, she'll never love this child. And she's like, no, he's beautiful.
Well, because she only wanted a child, she now got one. Uh,
Yeah, I mean, if you want to talk about like monkey's paw-esque stories, this is very much of, yeah, you get pregnant, but it's with a paganistic snake. And I also thought it was really funny that when they do the school book reports, the little girl actually writes a similar story. She chose the story of Prince Lindworm, which is basically the same thing. A queen who couldn't have kids seeks advice from a crone and is supposed to like eat two different flowers, one for one thing, one for the other, but she accidentally eats both because she couldn't remember which one was which. So she gives birth to a giant snake guy thing that eventually turns into a prince. So it's also a happy ending.
oh my God. But what were your thoughts on this one?
I thought it was really well done. Finding out afterwards that this is the guy who did Dracula Untold,
Mhm.
I was like, okay, so yeah, it does have that really nice production quality, not as good as like the first one. Like it was slightly B movie-ish, but the story itself was so well done. The acting was pretty impressive, especially like you said with the little girl and how
Oh,
creepy she was. But yeah, I mean, overall, it had a lot of moments like where it kept showing the different dates and then
yeah.
finding out at like day 396 she's finally giving birth to this thing. Um, but yeah, it had a lot of nice, like beautiful shots in it, uh, with like the field with the sun and all of the pagan people in their animal masks.
Well, that's the thing is it starts off as this very isolated story that's in like school setting, and then
Yeah.
it goes to this really open field with the paganistic stuff, which well I had some echoes of The Wicker Man when I was watching this again. I was like, oh shit, oh yeah. Because to be honest with you, we don't see a whole lot of paganistic movies being done.
No.
Like one every 3 to 5 years that gets noticed. And it's always refreshing to see that those ideals are still relevant. Wicker Man is still one of my favorites, and it's there's some other ones that are really great out there. I'm trying to remember them all, but I can't for some reason. There was one in which this group of men are going on a kind of a trek, and they get stuck in this little town that's kind of paganistic, and I can't remember what it's called.
Oh.
Saved my life. I think it's actually by the same guy who did Siren. But it was a really great movie about this pagan town, and it's something that for some reason doesn't get done enough. These type of ideals that people other than the norm have, whether it's trying to replenish their crops or appease some type of pagan god, or something like this, where they all worship this snake god thing.
Yeah. No, I always love going to religious horror, like uh because I grew up like Catholic Christian and seeing the equivalences between vampirism and the rising of Christ on Easter is a very interesting concept. But yeah, like Saint Maud, I mean, you get into like the Omen where you get that bit of religion in there. It all gets to be very interesting, especially when you can look at it from other religions.
Mm-hmm. So the thing is, you bring up a nice element that I keep forgetting about is that at the end of the movie, you see the girl in a Christian school about to do the same thing to a nun.
Yeah, I think it's a nun. Yeah.
So, yeah, very, very interesting that you brought that little religious aspect up. All right. So, what was the third movie?
The third one was Easter, which is probably my favorite because, yet again, it is religious horror in the best way possible. Because, as a kid, you don't understand the difference of, well, what does the Easter bunny have to do with Jesus coming back from the dead? And the little girl talking about it, where she's like, are they the same? What happens if he sees me? What happens if Jesus sees me? What happens if the Easter bunny sees me? And it's like a kid's fever dream.
It is.
It's so, and the fact that it's hinted at that the dad disappeared the year before because of the same thing is really terrifying.
Well, the whole movie is terrifying, and then of course the ideal at the very end where we see the little girl turning into the next Easter bunny.
Yeah.
It's tragic. It's a tragic thing, but then you kind of like she'll never see her mother again, but maybe she'll see her father.
Yeah, maybe she'll see her dad. It'll be great. But no, the whole if you don't like body horror, like I can do like pierced skin and stuff like that. A skin bunny as a human dressed up as Jesus, it's reaching a little too far. It's one of those like things that like you don't want to see and then you can't look away. And then you've got the holes in the hands where the baby chicks are coming out of it and everything. And I was just like, I was just waiting for something else to happen. And then she just like looks through the hole in his hand and transforms. And I was like, ugh.
Well, that's the thing. The whole anthology series. This one touches on a little bit of everything, and you have religion in here. And that adds to the actual aspect, not of just this segment, but of the whole film. Because it's not just a throwaway stories. They're trying to tell you other things. St. Patrick's Day has this whole thing about paganism, and pregnancy, and a woman who couldn't get pregnant before then, and of course, the first one, Valentine's, is a bully or a woman who's being bullied, and the one teacher who decides to give her a little bit of what's the perfect word for that, attention, thinking it's not too much but enough so that she's not completely bullied, because he could have stopped the bullying at any time.
Well, and that's one of the little subplots of that one is he doesn't want to stop the bully because the bully put together the talent show that's supposed to be the fundraiser for his heart surgery. And then it's a little ironic that bully's heart is the one she offers up to him to, like, I mean, that's not how that works, but nice try. It's the thought that counts.
Yeah. And the thing is, in Valentine, the coach is having a horrible relationship with his wife or girlfriend. I don't know if they actually tell you which is which. But every time you hear them, they're always arguing about, she's not celebrating Valentine's on Valentine's, and she doesn't care about the fundraiser to fix his heart and shit. So, these themes that run through at least these three for right now are very, they're not items that could just be thrown away when you watch them. This is not just a film that's just trying to create scary stories. It's trying
to, they're not one-sided. They're multifaceted.
There you go. Not one-sided but multifaceted. Correct. All right, going from Easter, although I will have to say I love the fucking makeup and creature effects in Easter.
It's so good.
So good. This is a creepy fucking monster, and you would never think of that for a freaking Easter bunny. And it's pretty. I have to commend the filmmakers for that one. You're right. This is one of my favorite sequences, only because by the time you get to the end of it, with the girl transforming into the Easter bunny, and she's been told she'll never see her mother again. That stays with you, because you don't actually see her final transformation. You just see her transform, and it's almost done. I would say animated style, really.
Yeah.
Shadows. I thought that was a brilliant decision by the filmmakers.
Yeah, I always go to the fact that everything's a lot more horrifying in your imagination,
Mhm.
and the less you see, the better.
Yeah.
And you can only imagine how horrific her transformation is.
All right. Getting on to number 4 in the film is
Mother's Day.
Day. All right. Tell me a little bit about what you thought about Mother's Day.
I thought it was an interesting concept. A woman who can get pregnant every time she has sex. But then you throw in the whole like witch's coven, and you get the whole like maiden mother crone aspect of their little ritual. And then I was even shocked that they named the guy and the thing at the end as Montezuma and Montezuma 2, according to the credits. And I was like, I have no idea how this ties into Mother's Day, but okay, I guess we'll go with it.
Uh, this is one of the ones I didn't care for as much. Only it's the story that's a visually interesting story, but I just
Yes.
I like the ideal of the woman who's 24 who every time she has sex she gets pregnant, but the idea that she goes to a place that is supposed to help her, but it ends up being a place for women who can't get pregnant. And that means there's some type of larger conspiracy at hand that sent her there to begin with. And I would think that her regular doctor, would have saw this more than just the 20 pregnancies ago or something. It just seemed a little bit weird to me. I would have like this one just was an odd one for me, and the fact that it's all about the Mother's Day aspects. I'm not sure, because visually it's a really interesting film, especially when you get into the fact that it's all these women who are trying to do this weird little ritual, which I didn't figure out what the fuck the ritual exactly was, because it just seemed like they were drugging her. She's pregnant. It's not like Rosemary's Baby where she was impregnated by someone else. So whatever ritual they're trying to do, they're trying to change the baby or something like that. Maybe I need to rewatch
Yeah,
it.
like I wasn't. No, I took it as a so like all the other women couldn't have children, so I was like, are they trying to transfer this woman's like energy to the other women so she can like transfer the child over, or what's going on? But yeah, I mean it's a beautifully shot piece. The ending, the payoff is not worth the entire plot of the story, and it's just the one shot cut that you're like, what is this? But I did think it was interesting that this director, she's pretty big on writing for TV. She's done a bunch of different pilot episodes that have gotten TV series off the ground. So she's been pretty big. Her most recent one is Lessons in Chemistry. But each of the witches in the coven have like a semi-decent acting career, whereas I think the most popular one out of them right now is one of them was the girl in A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night, which is also another phenomenal horror movie. And she's currently in the Snowpiercer TV show. But because I was like, I recognize these people, I just can't remember what from.
Where from, yeah. And I love A Girl Walks Home Alone.
So good.
That one, yeah, that was so good. We'll talk about that one. We'll have to put that one on our list.
Yes, absolutely.
But yeah, I was like, it's good that you told me about this whole Montezuma 2 thing. I just thought it was fucking weird when a giant full length arm came out of her vagina as she was giving birth to. I was like, that's because I really didn't want them to be sucking her energy out so that all the other women would be getting pregnant. I kind of did see the story going that way, and it did this, and I was like, huh.
Yeah, like I don't know if they were going to like Montezuma's revenge or what they were going towards, because you see that in quite a few different movies where you get like an Aztec god or goddess coming out, but this coven didn't seem like that kind of religion. I wasn't sure exactly what they were going towards.
I didn't either. Like I said, I could have. My ideal behind what they were doing is that they want this one woman that comes in their midst who gets pregnant every time she has sex. They're trying to. I really did think they was going to siphon off that energy to all the other women who are at this camp, and it would be something else. So you're right. The payoff for me in this one didn't really gel. This is why this is one of my what I think is the weaker ones of this whole anthology. But like I said, I could watch it again and see a different aspect later on if I was to rewatch it again.
Yeah, I mean there's definitely another story here. I can definitely see them turning this into a full-length thing to explore what was going on because we totally missed part of this story.
It was left on the cutting room floor. So if the filmmakers are listening to us, I was like, there's something missing for this. It just didn't something didn't fully
Yeah.
gel. So okay. All right. So the fifth one we'll go to is Father's Day. Uh what did you think about Father's Day?
I really enjoyed this one. It was quite haunting. It was quite different from the rest.
Hmm.
Because you just get these beautifully framed shots of this woman. Like at first I thought she was being stalked, and that's what the package was. And then it turns out it's a recording from her dad made on the day of the last day she saw him, to the point that she hears herself as a child in the recording. Um, and I thought there were some beautiful shots. There's the weird thing with the eclipse going on that it's like, okay, so this is like a weird, it's another weird god goddess thing or some kind of um cosmic monster.
Hmm. Ah,
Um because yeah, at the end where she crossed it, like he makes the comment about you are choosing to
mm-hmm.
come here. I was like, okay, is this like a vampire thing? And then she crosses the line of salt by the door. And it's like, okay, something is being kept in here. And I don't know if it's him or if it's the thing he went to go see. But it is
Ah,
it is such a beautifully shot piece. And I thought it was really funny that she's actually probably one of the biggest actresses in this movie. And the dad who's recording it is Bert from Tremors.
yes, yes.
So I didn't put that together until my husband mentioned something and I was like, that changes all of this. This is definitely a comedy now.
So I have to add this. The only reason why I recognize that now is because I literally just watched Tremors like 3 days ago, and then I watched this one 2 days ago. I was like, wait a second, these voices are familiar to me. So it's funny that you actually caught it too, because I didn't catch it the first time I saw it either. But I only caught it because I literally just watched Tremors like 3 days ago.
Yeah, and then I've seen her in quite a few things apparently. So she was in Doctor Sleep. She was young Lorraine in Insidious 2. She's the lead in The House of the Devil, which is another beautifully shot
Oh,
film.
love it.
She's in The Burrowers, I Trapped the Devil, and then she did 2018's All the Creatures Were Stirring. So
Oh,
she's done quite a few horror movies. Um, but yeah, I gotta say it was one of my favorites just because of the way it's shot. It's
mm.
just a beautiful piece. It's very heartfelt. I was waiting for the mom to be on the phone and be like, "No, we had a funeral for your dad. He's dead. Who the hell are you talking to?" But
Yeah, well, the thing is, until you mentioned it, I didn't even think about that being at the doorway where she crosses into the house to be salt, and that changes my ideals about that whole thing. Um, I don't know what the eclipse is for, but hit on something that was very interesting to me in regards to that could be some type of otherworldly god, something like that. When I rewatch it again, I'll have to keep that in mind because that's actually very interesting to think about. Because the two times I've seen the movie, it's like, why are these images of the eclipse? I
yeah,
I wasn't really getting it. I thought it was visually cool as shit. We cut back and forth from this eclipse that's about to happen. But I didn't pick up on what it meant for the story or the pillar of salt. But that changes my aspect on it now.
yeah, because I wasn't even sure. Like they showed that room like 3 or 4 times that she was standing in, and I was like, I'm pretty sure that door wasn't there. And it possibly only opens during the eclipse.
Mm-hmm.
Because then you get transported to this other place, because it's not inside, it's outside going back inside to another house.
Mm-hmm.
So it was very interesting, and the fact that they did like all of the sounds next to these empty places, like you can hear her stick on the chain link fence but she's not doing anything, or you hear the busyness inside that building when it's now empty. It was very well shot and well recorded.
Yeah, so that's another aspect of this one that I really liked. I really liked you would call it the sound effects.
Yeah, the sound design.
Sound editing. For this one, because you're right, it does stand out in this film, and it makes it a little bit more creepy as the story goes on, because a lot of what she's doing is listening to the recording that she got, who she thinks is her father. And this is the odd thing about this movie, being that it's really about the daughter and her father, and not so much Father's Day, so to speak, unless there's an eclipse on Father's Day, and that's how you. I don't know if did they actually mention anything about Father's Day in this film? Because
when she opens the package, it says Happy Father's Day.
Okay.
So yeah, I don't know if it was supposed to be exactly Father's Day or if it was supposed to be like a birthday gift to her. For me, it works either way, because my birthday is normally on Father's Day every year. So I was like, this is a little creepy. I mean, my dad's alive, so I know this can't happen, but
Interesting. This one I think was kind of like Easter, is very creepy in the fact that the atmosphere it creates and the unexpectedness by the time it's the very end of the film. I think that's what makes these two very effective in terms of the segments.
Yeah, they're both very effective short films. Like they tell you everything you need to know to get the point of the story.
Well, I'll have to rewatch it again, because now that I have a new idea in terms of the whole eclipse thing, I'll have to rewatch it with that in mind. And that's what I love about our little conversations. You give me more reason to rewatch these movies again and again. So, all right. So, moving along. Oh, any final thoughts about Father's Day before we move on?
No, I mean, it's like we said, it's a wonderfully shot piece. It's wonderfully recorded for audio. Artistic wise, I think it's probably my favorite out of all of these.
Okay. Next up is Halloween. Everyone else can't see the look of your face, but I definitely can. I I wanted your opinions on this one first before I say anything about this one.
So I think this one was originally why I wanted to watch it, is I was on a Kevin Smith kick. I think this was was this around the time he did Tusk?
I'm assuming since they were advertising Tusk, I think
then probably
yeah.
Yeah, because we were like, okay, Kevin Smith decided to do a bunch of horror movies. Cool, let's watch them. And so we threw this on, and I was like, this is just an entire ad showcasing his daughter and nothing else. I mean, it's got his comedy, and like the rest of this movie can be really funny at times, but these puns are like awful dad puns that an 18-year-old girl is supposed to be saying, and it's like it really is shot like a bad porn the entire time.
So I think it's supposed to be shot like a bad porn, because it's it's the whole porn cam thing.
It's not porn though. It's just a camera.
But because they're cam girls, and Ian's supposed to be the pimp that with ponytails. I'm sure Kevin Smith had an ideal for what he wanted to accomplish in this film. I don't think the comedy hits the way it's supposed to hit, and I'm not sure if that's because of the writing or if the delivery. Because a lot of this seems like it would have been something in a bad 80s porno film.
Yeah.
Not something in the film that would be made nowadays.
Well, and it's also like a bunch of actors that are friends with him, and that he's like one of the girls, I think it's the one who's dressed up as Dorothy, was actually a PA on a couple of his films. And now she's a production manager, production supervisor for film. But and then like the guy is the creator of Epic Mealtime. And I was like, oh, that's where I know him from. I couldn't see past the douchiness.
Yes. I can't. The ideal by the end of the film, where the three women get their one up on their pimp. I'm gonna say
Yes.
pimp in. And then they take over the business. I like that aspect of the story. I didn't really like the way to get to that part of the story. I thought the actual concept between the three girls, which is the coven of
Yeah.
as described in the little
The
cartoon.
cartoon. Yeah, I thought they were going to lean more into that. And so I was really disappointed. And especially after, like, this is a couple years after Trick or Treat came out, which is probably my favorite anthology of all time. I love that. The Rules of Halloween, like, I don't think you can live up to that with especially this short.
Yeah, I think if this one had been given a little bit more time, and Kevin Smith had been allowed to kind of extrapolate his ideals into a longer form, with I hate to say this out loud, but actual actors, I think it would have been a much better realized film. That being said, as of right now, it's one of the weakest in the anthology, which is the number one reason why I kind of wanted to see it was his film, and it
Yeah.
being one of the weakest in the entire film overall. But it is funny. It is funny that the three ladies get over on their pimp by putting a vibrator up his ass and gluing his ass shut.
Gluing it shut and then attaching it to a car battery, because what better way to do that? And I'm sitting there like, they'd have to be like smart engineers to be able to rig that. That's not something anybody can do, because it's not like you just plug it into the car battery. So this is like electrical engineer worthy. Like, why are they wasting their time doing webcams if they can do that?
I also didn't really believe that they would be able to do that. All the dialogue leading up to that does not make you think that they could do this.
No.
Plus, plus you're right, the douchebaggy, and you would think even if his ass was glued together, he'd just pull the fucking vibrator out, or
Yeah.
the cable going to the damn vibrator.
They literally give him a knife. Like, okay, so you might be electrocuted or you're going to be vibrated in the ass until you die. Like,
yeah. When I was rewatching it, the actual logic behind the whole story kind of just got thrown out the window, and I was like, oh god.
yeah.
So yeah, this ended up being one of my weaker ones, and those are my thoughts on this one. I was like, oh yeah, he gave him a knife, just cut the damn cable.
Yeah.
It's like, go to the hospital, have them open your ass up, take the vibrator out. Or something.
And I mean, like, the way that super glue works, I get he might have a very hairy ass, which would be quite painful, but like, people get waxed there for those reasons. And if he actually had on the sign, like, no bush on the tush as one of the rules in the house. So it's like, if he followed that rule, it wouldn't be an issue.
You're right, I forgot about that. Oh my god. So we're laughing our asses off talking about the movie. So maybe Kevin Smith did achieve his goal. But
yeah, maybe he got exactly what he wanted. I mean, it's not Tusk, because that is just horrifying. But
you know what? I have not seen Tusk yet. I know what the whole movie's about, but I've been kind of avoiding that one until I'm in the mood to watch that type of movie.
yeah, they hadn't released the image on the internet. And I think we got to that part and I noped the hell right out of there. And I don't think we ever finished it, because after seeing that one shot, no.
Okay, now I have to put that higher up on my list to watch. Maybe we'll discuss that in a later episode. Oh,
yeah, God. I don't know if I can, Kevin.
Oh well, I'm not gonna say anything bad about Kevin Smith, because he has done some excellent movies, and
oh yeah, absolutely.
Some of his horror films are really good.
Yeah, he's just not who I think of when you talk about Kevin Smith. You think Clerks and
All Rats.
Mallrats and all of those, you don't think about his horror that much.
Nah, I mean, but I will tell everyone right off the bat that Red State is one of my favorite films that he's ever done. So if you haven't seen that horror film, go out and see that one. That was excellent. But
Yeah, no, I love Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back because, it's got Mark Hamill in it. How can you not like it?
I forgot about that. Oh my God. I haven't seen that in forever. That is an excellent movie too.
That and Dogma, another weird religion movie that's done so well.
Oh my God. Yeah, I think he needs to do more horror stuff. He seems to like it. Hopefully he'll do some more. Red State I thought was great. Tusk. I like body horror, but the image of Walrus Man, I have to be in the mood for that one. Sorry. This one I could take a little bit more with the vibrator up the butt. I actually think the guy Ian deserves the vibrator up the butt.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my thought on that one. I just, as a Halloween segment, I just didn't think it worked as well as it
No.
especially considering the Halloween when people think
it was like I said earlier, it was
anthology films, people thinking about Halloween, there have been so many great ones out there that you needed to up the ante on that in order to be effective. So
yeah, like Christmas and Halloween are the two holiday anthologies people most do. So
yeah. All right, moving on is
speaking of which is Christmas.
All right, Christmas. Now this one I actually liked only because I love Seth Green and him playing the underdog in this one was actually kind of funny.
Yeah, I love Seth Green. Like going back to like anything he has been in. I think I've seen most of his work because, as a kid of the 90s, he was in everything.
Everything.
I did think it was funny that his real life wife is the wife in this.
Oh, I didn't know that, really?
I didn't know that until I looked up the cast, and I was like, okay, that makes this 10 times funnier.
It does make it funnier. Oh, I did not know that was his wife. That is so interesting.
So I have to ask, so the goggles, you put them on, right? The kid sees what he wants to be, right? And then we see Seth Green with what he wants to be, and then he sees the perspective of the dead guy. Were we seeing his wife's perspective of her actually doing that, or was that what she wanted to do?
See, that's the thing. That's the concept. It's supposed to be your best you. It shows so whether or not she actually has killed someone, she really wants to kill someone if she hasn't already. And he is someone who just accidentally killed someone for a toy. But when his wife sees what he saw, and we're assuming she saw exactly what he saw in the goggles, she absolutely loved the fact that he let someone die.
Yeah, because he was tired of being stepped all over, and he was like, no. But I was like, this is the evil version of Jingle All the Way. If Jingle All the Way was a horror movie, this would be it.
That's absolutely correct. I did not think about that because I haven't seen Jingle All the Way in probably.
We watched it 3 times this year. I don't know why. Well, I know why. My husband loves Arnold. It is his favorite person in the world.
I haven't seen that movie since it originally came out. I don't even remember when it came out.
Yeah. No.
Oh my God! But you're absolutely correct. This would be the horror version of Jingle All the Way. I did like the concept of them doing that type of horror film of people racing for the It toy for their kids, and of course Seth Green's character misses out and just reluctantly is able to get it from the guy who has a heart attack or something and eventually dies.
Well, and then thinking, so this was back in this was made in 2016. I don't think the Black Mirror episode was out yet that had a very similar thing where everybody has the eye goggles thing, and it's the couple having sex. And they're both seeing different versions of their favorite time. And I was like, it's an interesting concept because it could be a thing at some point.
So I'm going to go really old school. And I don't know if you've ever seen this movie, which worked on the same concept but a different way. It's the movie Strange Days that James Cameron wrote for Catherine Bigelow.
No.
If you haven't seen the movie Strange Days, as Ray Fiennes and Angela Bassett, and Ray Fiennes plays I guess a seller of actual real memories that people live off of other people's real memories. So he sells these memories that are created in a virtual world to other people who want them. So they're living other people's real memories. And so obviously the concept is someone is wearing one of these squids on their heads that records a cop killing another person, and then they're all trying to get after this memory that's in Ray Fiennes' possession. Then Angela Bassett's an ass-kicking woman, of course, so she kicks everyone's ass, and it's a great movie. Ray Fiennes in a non-dramatic role, or he hasn't become Voldemort yet, so in the Harry Potter movie, so he's still relatively new. Most people don't even realize he's in the movie because he was a nobody. I think he'd only done the English Patient then. But the concept of people living out other people's fantasies in VR, or the concept of being able to see your real you, is what that movie kind of touches upon. And this was, I don't remember how old this movie's got to be, like probably almost 30 years ago or some shit. And we saw it in Black Mirror, and we see it here, and the concept keeps coming up, and I'm surprised we're not there yet.
Yeah, I mean, you get that way in like who's the author who did like Do Electric Sheep Dream?
The Philip K. Dick.
Yeah, so it's all like that kind of stuff, which is really interesting.
So Strange Days came out in 95. Good God, I'm old. But yes, one of James Cameron's earlier films that he wrote. And it was amazingly done because anyone who's ever read anything that James Cameron wrote, he overwrites. So he explains all the technology. If you've ever read anything he's read, all the technology he wrote is that it is real. And so when you're watching the movie, you believe that all this shit is possible right now. I believe virtual reality was still in its infancy in 95. So he took the concept and ran with it. Nowadays, we use it as a game or exercise, because there's a lot of programs out there now using it as an exercise motif. And of course, teaching and stuff like that.
Well, and there was actually, we were just talking about it the other day, there was a movie shot when they did the scenes, they did VR technology where they would scan the entire room so you could walk around the set. And we all made jokes of, oh yeah, you're going to see a grip sitting on an apple box in a corner somewhere. You're going to see like people on the crew hiding behind doors and all the other fun stuff.
You sure this wasn't on James Cameron's next film? I would not be surprised.
Remember. Yeah, I mean, it's only a matter of time before we get like VR Pandora.
Yeah. And so, we're always fascinated by these concepts. And then, of course, this one takes it even further because the VR concept wants to show you the real you. But it doesn't, it shows you the real you as if you're the victim.
Yeah. And I mean, I loved it. I thought it was funny. You're sitting there and he's got like the dominatrix crawling up to him while he's sitting there with his family on the couch. And then you finally see his wife's and she's like wearing the little like Christmas outfit with the little like the rain poncho, and she's got her glass of wine. And I was like, yeah, get it, girl. You deserve that raise.
Yes, I did. I had a lot out of all the segments. I believe this is the funniest for me. Seth Green like hit it out of the park again, as usual. He does. He's like a freaking chameleon when it comes to different types of characters. He's played the characters, the overly confident and funny ones, like in the television version of It. He's played bad boys. He's done a little bit of everything. So
yeah, he's had a possessed hand. It's been great.
That's right. Idle Hands, for everyone who doesn't know the reference, Idle Hands. You definitely see that one too. I forget about that one. That one's actually really funny too.
Yeah, it's great. Looking up the director for this one, I was a little disappointed that this was all we got, knowing his background, because he did Legion, Dark Skies, and Priest. And I was like, those are phenomenal movies. Like this, we get Jingle All the Way. And then like he actually co-founded a LAFX company that did a bunch of stuff ranging from like Mars Attacks to Grindhouse, Iron Man, Pirates of the Caribbean movies, Harry Potter, stuff like that. So knowing that he's part of that world too, it was like, oh, I would have loved to see how much more he could have done if he had anything else.
Interesting. Yep. All right. So, any final thoughts on that one before we move on?
It was probably the funniest out of all of them.
Oh no, it was definitely the funniest.
Like, yeah, actually makes you laugh out loud.
And actually, because it's positioned where it is, it's actually a good lead into the final one. You go from, I guess when you're putting these together, you kind of put the ones that are just mediocre in the middle, and that's how I saw the Halloween one. And then you come back with a really funny one with this one, and then of course we're going to end with New Year's.
Yeah, which is so well done. It's so funny and smart as well.
So it is, and it's funny because, and I know I guarantee you the filmmakers were not thinking about this when they were making this movie. At least I hope not. But I was thinking about this when I was rewatching it because the only thing I could think about is if this was the really bad version of Bateman from American Psycho.
It's
the ineffectual. This is the ineffectual version of him. That's how he, Bateman is like this clean cut, precise killer, and this guy has really fucked up teeth. He talks about the victim with having the perfect teeth. He wants to see the perfect teeth, and he can't seem to get the gun to work.
Oh my God, the gun part was so funny, and I'm sitting there like, what is this guy doing? He literally just put the bullet in. We literally have a Chekhov's gun for the rest of this. But going off of the teeth thing, I thought it was so funny because, like she's showing this clean exterior, but she's just as dirty as he is on the inside. And the same thing shows at the zoom out of her apartment at the end is you've got the main room that's nice and clean. And as they slowly zoom out to the other room, it's all decrepit and gross. And there's like gore slipping down the walls. And you're like, okay, she's just as gross as he is. I mean, she does have a medicine cabinet full of like eyeballs, but who doesn't?
That's why I was saying, I was like, I didn't see this the first time I saw it, but for some reason I was stuck on just seeing Patrick Bateman in American Psycho, and I was like, oh my God. And I really found this a hell of a lot funnier the second time I saw it.
Oh yeah.
I can't. Yeah, the fact that he's so ineffectual with killing the very first victim with the gun in the very beginning, and then
I love that we get the photo album of all the holidays they spent together. It's like we're recapping the entire movie.
Yes, that's why I said this was a perfect ending for the entire anthology. It kind of sums up everything. I was like, oh, yeah, and that's one of the things why I'm not sure if any of these people talked to each other while they were making the movie, because the way the sequence of all of them is the flow. Is very well done, and that's not always the case with anthology films. That's something that's not always the case.
Yes. But no, this one I thought it was pleasantly funny. I mean, a lot of the comment or the quotes from this, like tonight at midnight, I want to kiss someone who makes me feel like I can take the tape off their lips. And then like she's sitting there with her ice cream and you're like, oh, this poor girl. And she's like, well, can't be worse than the last one. We matched it 96%. And you're like, the first time you're like, oh, I hope she doesn't get murdered by this guy. And then the second time you're watching it and you're like, oh God, this is going to be a match made in heaven.
Yeah, I know. And it's more overall this whole, and not just this segment, it's much more rewarding the second time watching it, because of all of these little things that we now know having seen it the first time.
Yes, absolutely. You can look at the little things. Like I don't think I saw it the first time when they did the zoom out of the next room where you could see all the like blood marks on the walls. But yeah, I mean, the fact that she has like a specialty jar made just for him with his name on it.
No.
And then yet again, he brings out the gun and he's loaded it wrong.
You would think that by now he would just put bullets in every chamber.
You would think, but then he also left it in the bath or outside the bathroom, and then he looks at the like print on the tub, and he's like, "Oh, this is so cute and sweet." And then he finally decides to open it, and it's just body bags. And then she comes charging in like Patrick Bateman with the axe, and you're like, "Well, here we go. Got the nice countdown to the new year, and there's a nice soft thud at the end at midnight, and she starts dancing with her axe." I'm like, it's a beautiful ending. She found true love.
It's a beautiful ending, not only to that segment, but I think the whole film as a whole.
It really is.
All right. So, that being said, now that we've discussed all of the segments and holidays, what are your thoughts overall for the entire film?
I really think it's an enjoyable film. It's really fun. There are some really good hits and some misses. But overall, it's a great thing to experience.
Okay, so I'm gonna lead out for this in the fact that I really think that the film does a really good job with where each segment is positioned in the film, which I have seen a lot of anthology movies. I've seen a lot of low budget ones and no budget ones, and the way in which these are in line, their order, their sequence, works really well for the overall film. Sometimes with ABCs of Death, I didn't always get that, but that's because each one of the segments are just kind of the filmmaker doing whatever the hell they want to do with that segment, and they don't have a lot of time. With this one, they all pretty much are about the same length. There are a couple that are weaker because you wish that they had expanded them more.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, with the exception of Kevin Smith, the production quality is excellent, unless of course he was going for the grungy porno flick. They were all really well done, and for fans of gore, there's a lot of gore surprisingly in this movie. But there's also a lot of different types of horror in here. We've mentioned the body horror. We've mentioned, the religious type of horror that's in here, cult horror, paganism. This is an anthology that has a little bit of everything in there in terms of being able to be accessible to horror fans who just like a little bit of everything. I think
it's a great collection of. I mean, nothing really has to tie together, but it does kind of tie together.
Well, I'm surprised they haven't done a sequel yet. I hope they do. Or do one in which they highlight some of the other ones. I would love to see an Arbor Day film or
just giant tree eating people or man-eating trees.
Yeah, they didn't do Thanksgiving. They could do Thanksgiving.
Well, we've got an entire movie now for Thanksgiving. I mean, we've had movies for Thanksgiving, and I was like, you can't compare to that either. Like, you're going to do the exact same thing.
So, with that, I would love to thank Sarah for joining us for this conversation in horror. This is not just a regular episode. This is one that we want to celebrate Valentine's Day and everyone out there who just loves a good horror film. So, if you're watching this, make sure to appreciate your loved ones, even if you are Jason or Patrick Bateman. And watch all of the segments. They're actually really good. And this film is one of those films that you can watch in any holiday pretty much. So I want to thank you all for joining us for Conversation Horror. Please check out some of our previous episodes and make sure to subscribe to us so you can get ahead on some of our future episodes. And I would like to say good night, everyone, or good day, and have fun. Conversations in Horror is a Broken Lighthouse Pictures production, produced by Kevin L. Powers, executive produced by Kelly A. Inoka, and originally filmed via Zoom technology. Conversations in Horror is hosted by Kevin L. Powers and co-hosted by various horror film lovers and filmmakers. To learn more about Mr. Powers, please make sure to check out his Patreon page and other social media platforms. Conversations in Horror is copyright 2024 Broken Lighthouse Pictures production.